What's up guys, today's video I am gonna do a detailed review and pick the top 5 best mid-range smartphones 2022. After doing proper researches, we came to the conclusion that meets the best in terms of overall. Kindly leave a like if you find this helpful, and I'd appreciate if you subscribe to my channel and turn on post notifications if you haven't. We will be also providing affiliates link to purchase from Amazon. Kindly use to for best offers and purchase from anywhere in the world. We'll be back with more videos. The Xiaomi Poco F3 has got one of those faces. You swear you've seen it before, even if you know full well that this is the first time you've laid eyes on it. Those who keep an eye on parent company Xiaomi's skittish global release strategy will understand why that is. The Poco F3 is essentially a rebranded Redmi K40, and it also sports a nigh-on identical design to the Xiaomi Mi 11i. It's the same phone, partially reconfigured for different markets and price points. As you might suspect from such a one-size-fits-all approach, the F3 proves to be tidy, well-considered, impeccably well-built, and somewhat nondescript. It has Gorilla Glass 5 on the front and rear, so the phone feels fairly premium. You even get that super reflective, fingerprint-attracting finish that flagship manufacturers seem to love. But the F3's sides are pure plastic, albeit one that diffuses light in a vaguely metallic fashion. All that glass combines to create a phone that's hardly lightweight at 196 grams, though it's not excessively heavy. It helps that the phone is also quite skinny at just 7.8mm thick. Around front, the Poco F3 adopts the typical all-screen approach, albeit with a slightly larger chin than some in a dead flat display. Another giveaway that you're dealing with a less than flagship phone is the central punch-hole camera, which has a slightly off-putting shiny surround. The Samsung Galaxy A52 5G is a tale of two phones, the outer and inner. Samsung wholly redesigned the A52 5G skin compared to the outgoing A51, but it carried over many of the specs from the previous generation. This leads us to wonder if it's worth the upgrade or not. There's nothing subtle about the Galaxy A52 5G. It has fully adopted the design language seen on the Samsung Galaxy S21 and Note 20 series to complete the family picture. That means it has a straightforward look with a super chunky camera module on the rear. The resemblance to its flagship siblings is obvious when you compare the family members to one another. Moreover, everything about the phone is bigger than its predecessor. It's taller, thicker, and heavier. Not by much, mind you, but by enough to notice. One thing separates the A52 5G from its more expensive Galaxy S brethren: materials. Where the pricier models are metal and glass, the A52 5G's rear is made of polycarbonate. Both the mid-frame and the rear panel are made from plastics and the front panel is covered in Gorilla Glass 5. It's worth pointing out that the rear plastics are more durable than glass and you might be able to get away with using the phone without a case. Further, Samsung upgraded the Galaxy A52 5G with dust and water protection thanks to the IP67 rating. That's a huge bonus over last year's phone. Despite the plastics, the matte materials are appealing and could be mistaken for glass from a distance. The overall feel of the phone is quite good. The remaining design elements are function over form, but that's not a bad thing. The power button and volume toggle are high on the right edge of the phone. While the buttons are easy to find and use, feedback borders on cheap. The combo SIM card/memory card tray is tucked into the top edge. It supports microSD cards up to 1 TB. Samsung kept the phone's left edge entirely free of design elements, but the bottom contains the USB-C port, headphone jack, and downward firing speaker. Together with the earpiece, the phone produces stereo sound. For a $500 phone, I was hoping for slightly better. Music comes across as a bit thin, with high-frequency sounds prevailing over bass tones. It's fine if you're not overly discerning, but there are phones out there that sound better. Still, the A51 5G didn't have stereo speakers at all, so that's something. There's something very likable about the Google Pixel 4a's design. It's not flashy or in your face, in fact it's the exact opposite and yet it looks attractive. Google has used a unibody polycarbonate shell with a soft touch matte finish. It looks nice and doesn't attract fingerprints. The Pixel 4a is relatively slim at 8.2mm and really light, at just 143 grams. The overall compact dimensions of the body and the rounded edges make it a very comfortable phone to handle. The volume and power buttons are placed on the right, and offer good tactile feedback. There's a headphone jack on the top, a tray for a single nano SIM on the left, and the speaker and USB Type-C port on the bottom. The Google Pixel 4a only accepts a single physical SIM, but it does support an additional eSIM. Google has thankfully ditched the massive bezel of the previous generation for much narrower ones on the Pixel 4a. The borders are still a bit thick, but they're more or less even all around the display. You get a hole punch cutout for the selfie camera. The display is a bit larger than that of the Pixel 3a, measuring 5.8 inches diagonally. It's an OLED panel with a full HD Plus resolution. It supports HDR10 playback and is made using Gorilla Glass 3 for scratch protection. One feature that's missing compared to last year's model is the active edge sensors. On previous Pixel phones, you used to be able to activate Google Assistant by squeezing the pressure-sensitive side panels. On the other hand, Google has kept the Now Playing feature, which automatically recognizes songs being played in the background and displays the title and artist on your lock screen or always on display. The Google Pixel 4a uses the Qualcomm Snapdragon 730G SoC, which is not the most powerful SoC you'll find in phones at this price, but is good enough. There's 6GB of LPDDR4X RAM and 128GB of storage, which again, are fairly adequate. The Pixel 4a supports 4G VoLTE, dual-band Wi-Fi AC, Bluetooth 5, NFC, and 4 satellite navigation systems. There's no wireless charging or IP rating, but you do get stereo speakers. The Pixel 4a also features Google's Titan M security hardware for biometric authentication and other security-related functions. The iPhone SE has exactly the same design and display as the iPhone 8 from 2017. Using this form factor and screen hardware allowed Apple to keep the cost of the device as low as it has, as it didn't need to invest in a whole new manufacturing process. It feels like the iPhone world has moved on in 3 years though. Now the 4.7-inch screen with the chunky bezels above and below feels like it belongs to the past. In that time the flagship iPhone range has moved to an all-screen design, barring a notch at the top. You're presented with barely any bezels, while with more premium aluminum inside. Things have got a little weightier in recent years, so returning to the iPhone 8 design means Apple is bringing back its more lightweight phone, bridging the gap between the older iPhone SE and the behemothic, but impressive, iPhone 11 Pro Max, for example. Indeed, picking up the new iPhone SE, the first thing you'll notice is how lightweight it is. Again, some might not notice the change if they're coming from a smaller phone from 2016-17, but trust us, it could have been a lot worse, as the devices in the newer all-screen iPhone ranges are a lot heavier. While the iPhone 8's design might feel like an archaic choice for a new iPhone, it makes a lot of sense in the iPhone SE 2020, and for some who don't particularly care for the latest features, this more familiar design will be a lot more desirable. One suspects that if Apple had rebooted the original iPhone SE shape, with the smaller 4-inch screen and clickable home button, the new iPhone SE 2020 features a haptic button that doesn't move, it would still have sold well, but the larger 4.7-inch LCD screen is more useful for today's apps, which make good use of the extended display. One thing that many will miss is the 3.5mm headphone jack. The Xiaomi Mi 11 Lite 5G's design is a considerable improvement over the generic Xiaomi Mi 10 Lite, while it wisely keeps a couple of the bolder elements of the Xiaomi Mi 10T Lite. Xiaomi has smartly done away with the dated teardrop selfie camera of the Mi 10 Lite, and has shifted its punch-hole alternative over to the left-hand corner, like the full-fat Xiaomi Mi 11. The surrounding bezels are fairly minimal, albeit slightly thicker around the chin, which is a telltale sign of a more affordable phone. Another indicator of the phone's lower price tag is the thick black plastic buffer between the flat screen glass and the shiny plastic rim. The latter seems like less of a compromise than ever, given that even so-called flagship phones such as the Samsung Galaxy S21 and the OnePlus 9 are rediscovering the cost-cutting joys of plastic. It's when you flip the phone onto its front that the Xiaomi Mi 11 Lite 5G really makes its statement though. The satin finish glass rear, bold colors, our mint green model looks suitably fresh, subtle yet reflective logo, and distinctive camera module look and feel like they belong to a much more expensive phone. This is a seriously easy phone to live with too. At just 6.8mm thick and weighing a scant 159 grams, it's blissfully unassuming when sat in a trouser pocket. Don't get us wrong, it's not a truly small phone like the iPhone 12 mini. You're still getting a large 6.55-inch display, and the full-sized footprint that entails. But it feels like sweet relief after the heft of the Xiaomi Mi 10T Lite. Like that latter phone, you'll have to accept a fingerprint sensor embedded in the power button on the right-hand edge. It's a less overtly premium option than the in-display solutions usually favored for flagship and mid-range phones, but to this rider's mind it's preferable to the rear-mounted budget alternative. You can access the phone without picking it up, for one thing.